There is a tree growing across 30 states that produces pods filled with 30% sugar. You can dry them, grind the pulp, mix it with one ingredient, and 24 hours later, you are holding a bar that snaps and melts like dark chocolate. The $130 billion chocolate industry depends on you never learning this tree exists. Cities pay crews to cut it down. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to turn its pods into something that industry never wanted you to try. Hi, I am Harry, and this is Garden Explained with Harry. Drive through any mid-sized city in the American Midwest this October. Look at the trees lining the parking lots outside strip malls and office buildings. Look at the ones planted along sidewalks in older neighborhoods. You will see tall trees with spreading canopies and delicate fern-like leaves that filter the sunlight into patterns on the pavement below. And hanging from nearly every branch, you will see clusters of long, twisted, dark brown pods. Some of them a foot long, some of them closer to 18 inches. Curled like leather straps left out in the rain. Now look at the ground beneath those trees. The pods are everywhere. Piled against curbs, stuck in storm drains, smashed flat by car tires in parking lots from Indianapolis to Kansas City to Nashville. Every October this happens. Every October, maintenance crews sweep them into black garbage bags and haul them to the dump. Homeowners rake them off lawns and curse the mess. Nobody picks one up. Nobody cracks one open. Nobody tastes what is inside. But if you did crack one open, you would find something that changes everything you thought you knew about where sweetness comes from. The inside of those pods is lined with a sticky, dense, amber-colored pulp. It tastes like molasses mixed with honey and a faint note of something almost like cocoa. It is so sweet that dogs will chew on the pods for hours. Children in rural America used to snap them open and suck out the pulp like candy. That was 2 generations ago. The children stopped, not because anyone told them to, because everyone simply forgot. That pulp contains between 20% and 30% sugar by dry weight. While its pods contain valuable dietary fiber and minerals, claiming its protein rivals most grocery store beans requires crucial qualification. Whole dry beans, Phaseolus vulgaris, contain roughly 20 to 25% protein by weight, whereas honey locust pod pulp generally yields only 4 to 7% crude protein. Though its hard, unground seeds contain higher protein, they are largely indigestible unless specially treated. Honey locust pods contain high concentrations of tannins and complex soluble fibers called galactomannins. Consuming large amounts of raw or coarsely ground pulp can cause significant gastrointestinal distress, including severe bloating, intestinal gas, and laxative effects. Beginners should start with small quantities. Do not confuse honey locust, Cladicea triacanthos, with the toxic black locust, Robinia pseudosacacia. Black locust pods are shorter, 2 to 4 inches, flat, smooth, reddish-brown, and contain toxic lectins and toxalbumins, including robin, which cause severe poisoning. All of this drops onto the sidewalk every autumn and gets thrown in a landfill. But the sugar is not the real story. The real story is what happens when you grind that pulp into powder and add one single ingredient. The tree is called honey locust. Its scientific name is Cladicea triacanthos. And what it can do in a kitchen is something the food industry has no interest in you discovering. Take the brown pods after they have dried on the branch through late October. Bring them inside. If they are not fully dry, spread them on a sheet in a warm room for a few days. Then break them open and separate the pulp from the hard seeds inside. The seeds are smooth, dark, about the size of a small pebble. Set those aside. The pulp is what you want. Grind the thoroughly dried outer pod casing and inner pulp. Ensure the pods are completely brittle and dry before grinding. Any residual moisture will cause the high sugar pulp to turn into a sticky, gummy paste that can burn or jam standard blender blades. Something that your brain registers as chocolate, even though no cacao bean was involved. Separate and discard or crush the extremely hard, pebble-like seeds first to avoid breaking appliance blades. Combine 3 parts finely sifted pod powder with 1 part melted coconut oil or cacao butter and a pinch of salt, then chill. Add a pinch of salt. Stir until smooth. Pour it into a silicone mold or a lined baking dish. Put it in the refrigerator. Walk away. 24 hours later, you pull out a solid bar. It snaps when you break it. It melts on your tongue. The flavor is not Hershey. It is not Lindt. It is something else entirely. People who have tried it describe it as what chocolate might have been if chocolate had evolved in a temperate forest instead of a tropical one. Dark, malty, sweet with a toffee finish and a depth that catches you off guard because your brain keeps trying to categorize it as something familiar and failing. No fermentation, no roasting, no conching, no tempering, no factory. A tree, a blender, and 1 fat. That is the entire production chain. Now compare that to what it actually takes to make the chocolate bar sitting in the checkout aisle at your local gas station. Cacao trees grow only in a narrow band within 20 degrees of the equator. They require constant humidity. They require shade canopy from taller trees. They are vulnerable to frosty pod rot, black pod disease, and swollen shoot virus. The beans must be harvested by hand, split open with machetes, fermented in wooden boxes for 5 to 7 days, spread out to dry in the sun for another week, packed into burlap sacks, loaded onto trucks, driven to port, shipped across an ocean, unloaded at a processing facility, roasted, cracked, winnowed to remove the shells, ground into a paste called chocolate liquor, refined, mixed with sugar and milk powder and emulsifiers, conched for hours or sometimes days, tempered at precise temperatures, molded, cooled, wrapped, boxed, and shipped again to a distribution center before it reaches the shelf where you pick it up for $1.99. Honey Locust skips every single one of those steps. Now, here is where you might expect someone to ask the obvious question. If this is real, why has no company ever sold it? Why is there no brand? Why is there no Honey Locust bar sitting next to the dark chocolate at Whole Foods? The answer is not complicated. The answer is $130 billion. The global chocolate confectionery market generates that figure every year. 60% of the world's cacao comes from just 2 countries, Ivory Coast and Ghana. The entire industry is built on a supply chain that stretches from smallholder farms in West Africa through European processing plants to retail shelves in North America and Asia. Every link in that chain employs people. Every link generates revenue. Every link has lobbyists and trade associations and research funding. Climate scientists have been warning for over a decade that the regions where cacao grows best are losing viability. Temperatures are rising. Rainfall patterns are shifting. By 2050, the land currently producing most of the world's chocolate may no longer support cacao cultivation. The industry knows this. They have invested billions in genetic research to create heat-tolerant cacao varieties. They have funded soil studies and irrigation projects across West Africa. What they have not done is spend a single dollar investigating a temperate tree that already grows across North America and produces a pod that can be turned into a bar in a kitchen with no equipment. And the reason is not conspiracy. The reason is math. Honey Locust cannot be patented. The tree already grows wild in 30 states. You cannot control the supply of something that drops its product on public sidewalks every autumn. The pods require no industrial processing. There is no extraction technology to license. There is no fermentation protocol to protect. There is no proprietary formula. A grandmother with a blender and a jar of coconut oil can produce the finished product on her kitchen counter. No corporation benefits from that transaction. No quarterly earnings improve. No shareholder value increases. The carob industry learned this lesson decades ago. In the 1970s, carob powder was marketed as a healthy chocolate alternative. It gained traction in health food stores across California and the Northeast. Then the chocolate industry responded, not by attacking carob directly, by funding studies on the antioxidant benefits of dark chocolate, by repositioning cacao as a health food. Carob was reframed as the bland substitute, the inferior option. Sales collapsed within a decade. The lesson was clear. Any pod-based alternative to chocolate is a competitive threat, and the most effective response is not suppression. It is silence. Search for cacao research and you will find tens of thousands of funded studies. Search for honey locust pod food applications and you will find almost nothing. A few papers from agricultural universities in Turkey. A handful from forestry departments in India and Brazil. The knowledge exists, but it exists in the margins where Western food science does not look and where industry funding never reaches. Cacao farmers must buy seedlings. They must buy fertilizer. They must buy fungicides. They must pay for labor at every stage of a months-long process. Every input is a revenue stream for someone. Honey locust requires no seedlings after the first tree establishes itself. It fixes its own nitrogen, pulling it from the atmosphere through symbiotic bacteria in its root system, feeding itself while improving the soil around it. It requires no fungicides because it resists nearly every disease common to temperate forests. It requires no paid labor because the pods fall on their own. Every link in the chain that generates corporate profit in the chocolate industry simply does not exist with this tree. But honey locust did not always live in the margins. There was a time when people understood exactly what it was worth. Before European settlement, Cherokee communities in what is now the southeastern United States processed honey locust pods as a staple food. The sweet pulp was eaten raw by children as a snack on warm afternoons. It was boiled into thick syrup and stored in clay vessels. It was dried into dense cakes that lasted through winter when other food sources disappeared. The seeds were roasted over fire. Some nations fermented the pulp into a mildly alcoholic drink shared during gatherings and ceremonies. This was not a desperation food. This was not something people choked down when the real food ran out. This was a preferred food, a celebrated food, a food worth trading for. When European settlers pushed into Appalachia and the Ohio River Valley in the 1700s and 1800s, they adopted the practice. Frontier families in Kentucky and Tennessee learned from indigenous neighbors how to process the pods. When cane sugar was scarce, which it was for most families most of the time, honey locust pods were the sweetener. Women boiled them in iron kettles over open fires until the liquid reduced into a thick, dark syrup. They called it locust honey. The name stuck to the tree. Families passed the knowledge down through kitchen conversations and handwritten recipe notes tucked into the back pages of family Bibles. Then industrial sugar arrived. Refined white cane sugar from plantations in Louisiana and the Caribbean became cheap enough for every household. Then it became cheaper. Then it became the default. And the pods that had sweetened frontier kitchens for a century began to rot on the ground. 2 generations. That is all it took. Grandparents who cracked the pods open and licked the pulp raised children who saw the pods as yard waste. Those children raised a generation that does not even know the tree produces anything edible. The knowledge was not stolen. It was not classified. No government locked it away. It was simply replaced by something easier to buy. And once the buying started, the remembering stopped. But the tree never stopped producing. Every single autumn for the last 10,000 years, honey locust trees across eastern North America have dropped their pods. through ice ages, through wars, through the construction of highways poured directly over their root systems. The pods kept falling. They are falling right now, on sidewalks in Columbus, Ohio, in parking lots in Springfield, Missouri, along bike paths in Louisville, Kentucky, hundreds of pounds per tree per year. Exposed to open air, free for anyone who bends down. You can find one this week. Honey locust is one of the most commonly planted urban trees in North America. The thornless cultivar is used in nearly every city with a population over 50,000. The compound leaves look like fern fronds. The pods appear in late summer and turn brown through September and October. If the trunk has large branching thorns, that is the wild type. Both produce edible pods. The thornless variety you see in landscaped medians and outside shopping centers is the same species. Same pods, same sugar, same potential. A single mature honey locust tree produces between 100 and 200 pounds of pods every year. One tree, one backyard, enough raw material to produce bars and syrups and ground powder for a household for 12 months. The tree lives for over 120 years. Some specimens have been documented at closer to 200. Plant a seedling this autumn. Your children will harvest from it. So will their children. So will theirs. The tree grows in USDA zones 3 through 9. That covers the vast majority of the continental United States and equivalent climates across Europe, parts of South America, and temperate Asia. It tolerates drought once established. It tolerates poor soil. It tolerates urban pollution, compacted ground, road salt, and neglect. These are not the characteristics of a delicate orchard crop. These are the characteristics of a survival system. Collect pods in October and November. Dry them indoors on a rack or a sheet for a week. Break them open and remove the seeds. Grind the remaining pulp into powder using any standard blender or grain mill. Store the powder in a sealed glass jar in a cool, dry place. It will keep for over a year. To make a bar, melt 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. Stir in 6 tablespoons of honey locust powder. Add a pinch of salt. Pour into a mold. Refrigerate for 24 hours. That is the recipe. The whole recipe. Right now, a container ship is crossing the Atlantic carrying cacao beans from a port in Ivory Coast. The beans were harvested by workers earning less than $2 a day on a farm carved out of what used to be rainforest. The ship burns heavy fuel oil. The beans will be processed in a factory in the Netherlands, mixed with sugar from Brazil and milk powder from New Zealand, wrapped in foil printed in China, boxed in a warehouse in Pennsylvania, and driven to a store where someone will pay $1.99 and eat it without thinking about any of this. And 600 miles from that store, in a parking lot in Indiana, a honey locust tree just dropped another pod onto the asphalt. It will sit there until Thursday, when a man with a leaf blower pushes it into a pile with the rest. The pile will go in a bag. The bag will go in a truck. The truck will take it to a landfill where it will decompose into soil that feeds nothing and no one. The tree does not care. It has been doing this for 10,000 years. It will do it for 10,000 more, whether anyone picks up the pod or not.